There are places in this world that feel wrong, places where the air is heavy, thick with the residue of past tragedies. The Myrtles Plantation in St. Francisville, Louisiana, is one of those places. From the outside, it looks like a postcard from the Old South with its grand veranda and ancient moss-draped oaks. But don't let the beauty fool you. This isn't just a house, it's a vessel. It's a container for decades of pain, suffering, and a darkness that refuses to fade with time. People come here seeking history, but what they find is something much more sinister, an energy that clings to the very walls and whispers secrets in the dead of night. We are standing on a threshold between our world and the next. The legends say the darkness started before the first brick was ever laid. The story goes that the plantation was built upon an ancient Tunica Indian burial ground. This is a massive spiritual violation. Disturbing the final resting place of the dead is like opening a door you can never close again. It taints the ground, cursing it, and ensuring that any structure built upon it will be a magnet for negative energy and paranormal phenomena. Every footstep you take on this property is a step across someone's grave, an intrusion that the spirits have never forgotten, and more importantly, have never forgiven. You can feel their anger in the cold spots that drift through the humid Louisiana air. This house has seen more than its fair share of human suffering. Built in 1796 by General David Bradford, it was later sold to the Woodruff family. Imagine the lives lived and lost here, the anguish of the enslaved people whose spirits are said to still toil on the grounds, their sorrow forever imprinted on the environment. The grand architecture and sweeping lawns hide a history steeped in brutality and despair. Among the countless spirits said to roam the Myrtles, one name is whispered more than any other: Chloe. The legend of Chloe is the dark heart of the plantation's story: betrayal, desperation, horrific revenge. She was an enslaved woman owned by Judge Clark Woodruff and his wife, Sarah. The story claims the judge forced Chloe into a relationship against her will. Fearing she would be sent to work in the fields, Chloe devised a desperate plan. She began eavesdropping on the family's private conversations. One day, Judge Woodruff caught her listening at a keyhole. His punishment was swift and brutal. He had one of her ears cut off. From that day forward, she wore a green turban to hide the scar. She needed to win back the family's favor to secure her position in the house. Chloe baked a birthday cake for the eldest daughter, but she added a small amount of oleander leaf. Her intention was never to kill, only to cause sickness she could cure. But she miscalculated the dosage. They fell violently ill. Despite Chloe's frantic efforts, they all died in agony. Her plan had backfired, turning a desperate plea into a triple homicide. She was no longer a servant, she was a murderer. The other enslaved people, terrified for their safety, dragged Chloe from her room. They hanged her from one of the large oak trees on the property. Afterward, they cut her body down, weighted it with rocks, and threw it into the nearby Mississippi River, ensuring she would never receive a proper burial. This final act of desecration trapped her spirit, binding her to the place where she suffered so much. Many claim to see a young girl in a turban among the trees. A photograph taken in 1992 later showed a shadowy figure, the most famous piece of evidence. The Woodruff family's tragedy was only the beginning. The stain of death continued to spread. In 1871, William Winter's life came to a violent and mysterious end. He was standing on the front veranda when a stranger rode up on horseback and called out his name. A stranger rode up and shot him with a pistol. Mortally wounded and bleeding, William staggered back into the house. He collapsed at the foot of the grand staircase, a place that would become a hotbed of paranormal activity for over a century. With his last ounces of strength, he began to climb, desperately trying to reach his wife. But his injuries were too severe. He only made it to the 17th step before he collapsed and died in a pool of his own blood. His tragic final moments were permanently seared into the fabric of the house, an emotional residue that replays over and over again. Guests report hearing disembodied footsteps, heavy and slow, ascending the main staircase and stopping precisely on the 17th step. Some have even seen a full-bodied apparition of a man in 19th century attire crawling up the stairs, only to vanish when he reaches that fateful step. His spirit is locked in a loop, forever trying to reach his wife but never succeeding. The murder of William Winter was never solved. The identity of the stranger remains a mystery, adding another layer of unresolved energy to the plantation's haunted history. His death was sudden, violent, and unjust. His presence is one of the most frequently reported phenomena at the Myrtles, a constant, ghostly reminder that the house's legacy of bloodshed did not end with Chloe. The violence simply found a new victim, their stories echoing through its haunted halls. The house keeps its memories. The dead do not easily leave. They wait. For decades, stories were local legends. Everything changed in the 1970s when the plantation opened as a bed and breakfast. Suddenly, the public had access and the reports exploded. Guests who came for charm found themselves in a real-life ghost story. They reported being woken in the night by unseen hands tucking them into bed, or by ghostly children playing at the foot of their beds. The dead were no longer just a legend, they were interacting with the living. The reports were chillingly consistent. Guests staying in the William Winter room complained of being held down in their sleep, or hearing phantom footsteps pacing all night. Others reported seeing two young girls, believed to be the Woodruff children, in the windows or hallways. They sometimes appear reflected in the house's old mirrors. The sound of a spectral baby crying has been heard in empty rooms, and objects are known to move on their own. The owners began documenting encounters, turning the Myrtles from a local spooky spot into America's most haunted home. The most compelling piece of evidence is an infamous photograph taken in 1992. A shadowy, translucent figure was visible standing between buildings. The figure appears to be a woman wearing a green turban. Many believe this is the first and only photograph of Chloe's ghost. Skeptics try to debunk it, but debate only deepens the mystique. The Myrtles remains a place of profound mystery and fear. The spirits of the Woodruff children, William Winter and the vengeful Chloe are just the beginning. Countless other entities are said to roam the grounds. The house stands as a stark monument to its own dark past. Whether you believe it's a cursed burial ground or simply a building saturated with human tragedy, one thing is certain. When you step onto the grounds of the Myrtles, you are not alone. You are a guest in a house that belongs to the dead. Whisper, stay careful.